Another week, another chapter of My Hero Academia. And yet again, another revelation was provided to us all. Interestingly enough, another lineage-based one as well. With the last one, we began with the reintroduction of Lemillion into the fray, along with the specifics of his recovery by way of Eri. A touching moment that would only briefly distract us from the absolute carnage currently present on the battlefield as the near-high-end Nomu began to converge on Best Jeanist. A hero that is, for the time being, vitally important as he happens to be the one keeping the villains detained. With this, not even Mirio could handle such a force by his lonesome, and so he called upon the aid of others on the scene for backup. Following this, Bakugo would receive a quirk awakening as the explosions would absolutely go supernova, a subject we spoke at length about in a video of its own, so give it a listen if you haven't already. But despite his horrible state, both he and Nejire would heed the call to action and help out. And with Best Jeanist being there, Bakugo felt the need to share his rather long hero name with him. That wasn't exactly well received. Meanwhile, Toya would continue to make his family suffer, all the while smiling with a face of twisted madness. To stop this, Deku used Black Whip with his damn tongue and inspired Endeavor to finally take action as the Titanic Gigantomachia would finally begin to break free of Jeanist's hold. Endeavor would then fire himself upwards and strike the behemoth in the face, a blow to which neither would get up from. As finally, the sedative that Gigantomachia had ingested oh so long ago would finally go into effect. With this chapter titled Last Stage, we would open up with a look at the various heroic casualties this war has caused already. All the while, Best Jeanist would consider the many sacrifices that have led to such an opportunity. The opportunity and chance for the heroes to emerge from this strife victorious. That by their lonesome, they are nothing but solitary strands, but when banded together, working in tandem, they are able to become a sturdy rope. And this was the faith in their efforts that empowered him, as blood would gush out from his nose and even his eyes as he maintained and reasserted his hold. Machia was done, as Jeanist would then turn his attention to Dabi. Meanwhile, Mirio would go fist to face with one of the larger near high-end Nomus on the scene, phasing through its punch that left nothing but devastation in its wake. And this was one ugly brute. And if you remember our Greek mythology mega theory, then you may recall our deduction that the presence of the Nomu mirror that of the giants. Well, this one right here, my friends, is a Cyclops, which only serves to provide even further validity to our findings. Findings which I intend to follow up on with a future upload. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel with notifications on so you don't miss a thing. But anyways, Mirio knew that this bruiser would be a problem if left unchecked, because although his movements were rather rudimentary, the force and speed behind them were top-notch, as he and Ida would continue to strike and evade. Now saying that each of these creatures was more than likely just as powerful as Inomu from Kyushu, and that they cannot be taken down easily. Now this certainly made me blink twice. Strong as Hood? Hood? The same Nomu that was putting in that work against Endeavor, the #1 hero? That Hood? Get out of here, bro. Like, there's just no way. This man Ida would probably still get pieced up by Stain, and you want to tell me that they are up against a swarm of Hood level Nomu? I mean, I could get it if he said combined they're at that level, but to specify that each of them are that strong is just crazy. Like, honestly, I will believe it when I see it, because that is that sort of invalidation of Endeavor and Miruko's achievements that I just cannot stand for. Ida would then tell Bakugo, using his whole hero name mind you, that he is no match for the Nomu if he can't even take a hit right now. Which is honestly just the truth. I mean, although he went faster than Ida in the last chapter, he certainly didn't stick the landing. And of course, this is one of those things that Bakugo would snap back at normally, but at this point, the pain is so severe that he couldn't even respond properly. While Nejire didn't care for the consequences and was just here to shield Jeanist as much as possible. And Jeanist himself would now be able to retrain his focus elsewhere. And man, the bindings would just become increasingly tighter, now keeping Mr.Compress from using his quirk at all, as he could now only touch onto himself as Shigaraki was completely limp. And Mr.Compress, now thinking to himself more, would begin to question everything, as their job was not finished. That they were all gathered to go wild, but Shigaraki hasn't managed to destroy anything yet, which is yet another thing I cannot agree with, because there is not a single villainous force in the last few decades that can say that they toppled entire cities in a single run. Nobody can say it took the entire heroic force of the country to take them down. This is already one of the most legendary villainous runs the country has ever seen. But even so, I guess they've all yet to achieve their dreams, as Genist would begin to completely choke them out, which was a little unsettling, as Compress would begin to speak in the past tense of his love for the League in a way that reminded me of Twice. Now reflecting on how one's origins didn't really matter to the League, making them all just a unruly band of misfits, Compress would then ask for the choking spinner to wake Shigaraki on his mark, as he would then tap onto his pocket, then searing off his own flesh with his quirk as to provide himself enough room to slip free, and then swiftly capture his comrades into marbles, then believing it to be his time for a grandiose moment. This now being his greatest escape. And Genist, then realizing what just happened, would assess that the wound was indeed fatal, and that Compress wouldn't be able to last much longer, as he would turn Compress's clothing against him like a straitjacket. But it was not enough. Compress's hand was free and he would break out, continuing onwards as Skeptic, who I completely forgot about, would call out for help to no avail. And now thinking to himself yet again, Compress would conclude that escape and deception were his strong points, and so in a situation like this, it was up to him to save the team. It would be then that we would receive the revelation. Oji Harima, the Peerless Thief, a villain of legend that we first heard of through Gentle Criminal, was apparently a burglar from long ago. It was with the very beginning of heroic society that Harima stole from the greed-filled heroes and gave their wealth to the masses. Pretty much a Robin Hood character. Compress was told that the justice that shines a light on corruption was in his blood, as his name was revealed to be Atsuhiro. We then quickly shift to Shoto versus Toya, as in screaming out Toya's name, the two would clash, with Dabi emerging victorious, now saying that he couldn't possibly ruin Endeavor's masterpiece when Endeavor himself is passed out, as he would then head over to Mr.Compress. Compress, once again thinking to himself, would now vow to Harima that the rectification he couldn't fulfill himself would now be in the hands of Shigaraki, now yelling out that he is the great-great-grandson of the King of Thieves, questioning if they believed him to be just another background character, as that was just one of his many tricks. He would then begin to speak of a secret behind it all, before cutting himself short, as a magician never reveals his tricks, now revealing to us his full appearance along with his terrible wound, as he would free Shigaraki and Spinner, now ever so proud to proclaim that the once-in-a-lifetime show would now begin. And that is the chapter. Now, Mr.Compress was pretty much the last member of the League that we needed a backstory from, so to get it here was pretty cool. I can't say that I was really crazy about this one or anything, but I am definitely interested to see what this guy has up his sleeve. Right now, it seems like the League will be able to escape from all this, as Mr.Compress is indeed dying. And at that, for me, there is a sort of troublesome bias that I'm recognizing. The villains are dying, whereas the heroes are just terribly wounded. None of them are actually dying, with the exception of Crust, who nobody cared about. I mean, he seemed like a good guy, but we didn't know anything about him. He was pretty much just made to die, which for me at least makes his sacrifice not really mean much, at least not to the audience. And as the audience, I of course am always interested in what you guys have to say, so leave us your thoughts down in the comments. And if you want to be around for more, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on that bell for notifications. And if you'd like to take your generosity even further, then head on over to our Patreon page for exclusive content and art. And you should probably know by now that when it comes to bringing you some of the best My Hero Academia content on the platform, Plot Armor has you covered. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.